Okay, folks, quick beginning to part 4. We already have that cope cut. We're ready to get it in and get it in place. Let's get to work. All right, it's time to install our first coped cut, our first finished piece. I would love to say that this is the best cope I've ever made, but I'd be lying to you. I had a couple of little chips come off and a little edge kind of be a little gnarly. Had this been stained crown, I would be recutting that and recoping it. The standards that you have to do stain with are much higher than what you can with painted. But that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing ready to shoot. Your helper on the other end is going to take it up to those marker lines that you were talking about. Leave it just a little short of the corner, and then together, you and your helper will slide it your way until you cinch up with the top of the board and the bottom of the board. At this point, the guidelines don't really matter because what you're looking for, you can tap this right side a little bit to try to get it to move over and get that as tight as possible. And I'll show you what it looks like after we get it finished off. Not exactly the prettiest miter I ever did, but for painted mold, this will paint up real nice. Here's our splice that, because this wall's over 16 foot long, what I do is I measure at the lowest, longest point, which is right here. Then I'm going to butt my tape on the other side of the wall, and I'm going to get that measurement. So I know on the left side is going to be a square cut, and on this right side to the longest tip of that splice on the as close to the bottom as I can is 88 3/4. When you're putting up these blocks where you have no nailing, one thing you have to keep in mind is the way you're going to hang this room. You have to have a plan in your mind. Because, for instance, right here where this splice comes over and this board goes square into the corner, if you ran this block all the way in the corner, like, let's say, maybe I did, you're going to be coming back later to cut it out to allow this to go all the way through so that this one will lap over the top of it. And now that you got the corner opened up so your square end will fit, you know that right here to this very long point is where you pulled your measurement from here. So that's the 2 points you're going to want to line up. Once you get those dudes lined up, you maybe have to do a little bit of fine tuning and adjusting to get it tight, a little bit of sanding to blend it in, take it down, get some glue on it, micro pin here, and you have all you transferred all your stud numbers over on your wall and on your ceiling so that you're ready to nail it up. On these splices, I always put a fairly liberal amount of glue on these splices. As much surface contact as you can have, the better. I go ahead and I put my left side up to my mark, square it up in the corner, and then I bring it up here and very gently line this splice up. Once I get it the way I like it, I take my handy dandy micro pinner and I micro pin this miter together to make sure that it stays exactly where it is. If a little bit of glue comes out, that's fine with me. I'll take a damp rag, wipe it off. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a light sand on here anyway to blend this in and make sure that when it's painted, it all goes away. Now this piece right behind me is the splice cut that came off the end of the first 16-footer we put up. Now what I need to do is I need to make this piece that goes over past this corner. Now, I did the same deal. I held my pattern up, cut my miter, coped this corner out. Transferred the marks over for the wall studs, and then I got this block to nail into where there's no nailing in the ceiling. What I'm going to do differently on this one is I'm going to line these 2 marks up here, and I'm going to make this come in like this. I did not put a miter cut on this corner yet. I'm leaving this square. While my helper holds that up in the corner, I'm going to hit this with a hammer a couple of times, cinching that in. Then I'm going to come back and mark this corner to cut this miter on this corner, and I already know this is a 45 because I checked it. If your miter is out from a corner, you've already used patterns and smalled up the miter or increased the miter, and you know what this miter cut's going to be before you cut the board. Now, just to let you see what happens, actually this miter looks pretty daggone good, even before he taps it with the hammer. But I just wanted to show you how that would work. Go ahead and hit it a couple times. Ho, 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 ho. You see how that made that gap almost disappear? That's exactly where we want to hold it while we're marking the outside corner. Here's where we get a little weird. what I want is, I got this piece cut, we just marked it and cut it, but I want this piece cut so I can dry fit them together to make sure that my miter out here is just so-so. But I can't put this piece on until I have this piece run coming from this self-return to this corner so that I can cope this piece and let it run long, hit it with a hammer a couple times and fit it. So even though I got this piece cut, the next piece I have to put on is this one, and we'll work our way back to that one. So the next board we know that's going to go up is this one. Basically it's a square cut in the corner over here, and over here it's got what's called a self-return. If you're not familiar with a self-return, basically there's no way of stopping this over here, cutting it square, because you'll be able to look right in the end of it. What a self-return is basically an outside corner. You cut it exactly the same as an outside corner. I like installing mine before I put it up. That way I can fill these holes and touch up this miter and make it all look real nice before I install it. Then when I'm installed, it's complete. Okay, now just like the same way with the other one, I'm going to slide this over, line it up with the marks. All right, go ahead and give it a couple hits. Again. Oh, that's good. And then after it's tapped in tight, I'm going to go ahead and get the second mark on this outside corner. All right, we got our self-return over here. We got our inside corner miter that's looking real nice. We dry fit this piece and this piece together before we installed it to make sure that this miter looked good and it's plenty fine. Need a little bit of caulk and nail hole fill, and this is ready to paint up. We have one more piece left in our project. On our last piece we have here, we have a splice we had to line up with. And what we did was we cut this piece about 6 inches past this corner where it's going to stop. We lined our splice up, and then we came up and we marked the long point of this. We had a self-return on this piece just like the other one had, and we went ahead and cut that and put that on in advance, and now we're going to go ahead and put it up. And that, folks, is the favorite piece of my job, the very last one. As you can see, we made it all the way around the entire room, getting all the way done through our splices, our inside and outside corners, and with a little bit of touch-up, caulking, and nail filling, we are ready to get this dude painted. So there you go, folks. That's pretty much the ABCs of putting up crown mold. I hope this helped you out with your project. I'll show you a quick glimpse around the room to show you what the finished product looks like, and we'll see you on the next one.